Hey, welcome back to the channel. I don't know if you can tell by my lack of a haircut, the massive sideburns, or the look of desperation on my face.
I thought I told you to trim those sideburns.
But we are back in lockdown here in Melbourne. Again, lockdown number 6. 200 days in lockdown. Yes, that's awesome. So I thought, because my mental health is rapidly deteriorating, what I would do is, instead of bring a bunch of harmony and peace and humor onto the internet, I would instead try and incite chaos and a bit of infighting, maybe start a civil war. In today's video, we're going to be rating all of the different premiers in Australia. If you're not in Australia, a premier is the person in charge of an entire state, and their job is to do anything other than what they've been doing for the last year. I'm cancelling shows. Someone help! Or, if you're inside Australia, you might have the question, why aren't these cunts doing their jobs? Our entire attitude is, she'll be right. That's how we did so well at the start of the pandemic. Everyone else was scrambling and having wars over whether or not we should lock down. We just looked around and we're like, we're in an island. We should be pretty sweet. And we were, and we didn't prepare. And now I'm in my bedroom again. So, without further ado, let's rank all of the premiers in the country. We have 3 very important categories. The first category is their nickname. How good of a nickname do they have? How nicknameable is their name? This is very important for a premier. Category 2, this is their COVID performance. How well are they doing? How many cases do we have? How many times have we locked down? This is very boring, but this is an essential category. Now, the most important category is category 3, and that is their ability to throw shade at other states they have nothing to do with. Now, before you get angry, I know what you might be saying. Hey, don't blame the premiers. It's the Prime Minister's fault. And don't worry, he's not doing his job either. No one's doing their fucking job. I'm in my bedroom, help! Now, in an ideal world, we don't know what our premier's name is. If they're doing a good job, I don't know their name, and I don't care about what they're doing. The very fact that every person in the country has an opinion on their premier, and even the premier of their neighboring state, is a real big sign that none of these guys are doing a good job. First up, we have Daniel Andrews, the OG, the king of lockdowns himself, the only premier on the list who can at the same time look you in the eye and say stay home, but also look Rupert Murdoch in the eye and say fuck off. Daniel Andrews is the man who, depending on whether you watch Sky News or have the ability to colour in a colouring book without going across the lines, is a guy who is either trafficking children underneath the tunnels of Melbourne and trying to ruin our lives on purpose, or a saint, a living god, a man who can do no wrong, a man who can do anything except make eye contact with one person at the first category, nickname ability. Now, obviously, Mr. Dan is going to be scoring very high here. For a positive nickname, we've got Daddy Dan Andrews. A little bit sexy, a little bit funny. You know, he's being our boss. He's telling us to stay in our room. Really like that. Now, negative nickname, this is where Daniel Andrews really shines. Dictator Dan. You can't get better than that. Dictator Dan Andrews. I mean, just those 3 words written in a Herald Sun newspaper is enough to make a racist guy with a really red face lose his fucking mind in your comment section. Dictator Dan, Daddy Dan Andrews. I'm going to give the nickname ability a solid 9.5 here. Next up, we've got COVID performance. Look, right at the top, I loved what he was doing with the nursing homes because I am trying to get into the housing market. Really good stuff there. Also, we are looking at his first lockdown. Look, reasonable. I liked it. There were no vaccines around. COVID looked a lot more scarier than it does today. He was quick. He was fast. He got it under control. Since then, it's been in and out and in and out and in and out, and now I'm getting horny just saying in and out that many times. I'm going to give Daniel Andrews a 6.5 here, but every week we spend in lockdown from today, that score is going to be slowly dragging down, and I imagine we'll be in the negative very soon. Not negative number of cases, mind you. We still will be very positive. Last category, ability to throw shade at other states. Now, depending on whether you watch Sky News, Dictator Dan or Daddy Dan Andrews really does well here. He's been constantly throwing shots at Sydney ever since they had their outbreak. He also had the famous quote, why would anyone want to go to Adelaide?
Well, look, I don't want to be offensive to South Australians, but why would you want to go there?
Real drive-by on Adelaide there, completely unprovoked. I like that from Daniel, but not too much shade thrown at Northern Territory or Tasmania. I think he can lift here. I'm going to give give Daniel probably a nice solid 7.5 here for his ability to talk down on other states. Gladys Berejiklian seems like your rich friend's mum who for some reason put their child through public school and also has a real big problem with their child being friends with the ethnic kids, but is never going to say that publicly. She's the mother of the kid who had the best house for sleepovers, who when you were 9 years old, you loved sleeping over at his house because he had a movie room and you would watch all the best movies on DVD, and then you really couldn't comprehend why she was always so mean to your Arabic friend who didn't have much money and was always much more harsh on him than she was on you. Nickname ability. Look, Gladys Berejiklian, pretty hard name to nickname. Like the last name has so many syllables, it's giving me a stroke trying to count them. The first name Gladys has some potential. So we have Gladbag Gladys. That's pretty good. We've got Go Slow Gladys. Yeah, it's not really good. I haven't been able to find any positive nicknames, so that's, a mark against her name. There is also Koala Killer, but I'm going to be honest with you, if the only time I'm seeing a nickname is in the comment section of a Friendly Geordies video, it doesn't count. I want to hear that shit from my mum unprovoked, then it counts. So I'm going to give Gladys, look, probably a 5 out of 10 on the nickname ability. Not a very good score. Next up, we've got COVID performance. Now, this might be controversial. I am going to give Gladys a very negative rating because I'm going to go... I'm giving her a 4 for this one. But the final category, ability to throw shade on other states. Gladdy, you are nailing it.
Well, look, in other states, they've had up to 5 lockdowns. This is our second. In the next 6 months, premiers of other states may not feel the heat from their decisions.
I fear for Victoria and I worry about what their government may do.
Victoria did it very successfully, and you're saying we
No,
can't
they
do it.
didn't.
And in New South Wales, we didn't make up lists of who was an essential worker.
And it's up to others as to how they lead their states. I'm not going to comment, even though it's very tempting sometimes. And we would have hoped that other states would have built their resilience during periods of borders being up or lockdown.
So that's really, really great there. She hasn't said too much about the other states, which might seem pretty poor until you realise what she's done here. She was biding her time. She was keeping her mouth shut on other states and what they were doing. And she waited for the perfect moment to when she finally caught COVID in her state, and instead of talking shit, she gave them shit. She gave COVID to the whole country. So I'm really going to give Gladbags here a 10 out of 10 for ability to talk shit to other states. If you're in lockdown like I am, you might be thinking, gee, I would love to leave the country. Well, you can't, but fortunately, thanks to today's sponsor, your IP address can. Thank you very much to Surfshark VPN for sponsoring this video. Surfshark VPN protects your online identity by encrypting all of the information sent from your device to the internet, keeping it safe from malicious hackers and any big corporations that want to use your data for their profit. Also, Surfshark VPN changes the real location of your device with a new one, also known as changing your IP address. This allows you to virtually travel across the globe. Surfshark VPN makes it super easy to access content on all the streaming services that may be locked depending on where you live. For example, this week, John Oliver talked about the Vice story about the chastity cage. Everyone sent me the link, but I couldn't watch it because it was locked to everyone who lives in Australia. I fired up Surfshark VPN, changed my location from Australia to America, and bang, I could watch the whole video without doing anything. Super easy. A VPN makes sure your city, country, and download history is not linked to your identity. Wouldn't that be nice? Plus, Surfshark does not monitor, track, or store what you do. That means no connection or activity logs. So get Surfshark VPN and use code Lewis for 83% off plus an extra 3 months for free. Use code Lewis. Surfshark has a 30-day money-back guarantee, so there's no risk. Use code Lewis, secure your savings, and support the brands that support the show. That's the only way we can keep things spinning, especially with shows getting cancelled left and right. Thank you very much to Surfshark, and it's very important to support the brands that support what I do. So secure your online privacy today. Use code Lewis. Check the links in the description and the top comment. Thank you very much, Surfshark, and let's get back to the video. video. Next up, we have the big boy, the man himself, big old fucking Mark McGowan. Now, we're running with the parents theme here. Mark McGowan is like the dad that was in the army. Like, if you didn't wake up before 5 a.m. and make your bed immediately after you step foot outside it, Mark would go to town on you with a belt. Now, other people might hear that and go, that sounds a little bit like harsh parenting from Mark McGowan. But when you really take into account the type of children he has, you know, people who live in Perth, you've got fly-in, fly-out minors, you've got real minors that think they're 25 and will steal a car at 13 and drive it through a hospital for Facebook likes. You got just animals everywhere. They need a firm but fair leader, and that's what Mark McGowan has. Nickname ability. Look, Mark, he's not really going to score well here. We've got Mark McGowan, right? Now, first off, we've got Mark McGo home, you know, because he closed all the borders. Mark McGo home. That's pretty funny. That's actually a Lewis Spears original. I've created that. I'm not going to call it a nickname unless it catches on, and feel free to use it, Mark McGo home. I like it. I think there's some use that we could find there. Other than that, there's not really any nicknames that I've seen online. So I'm going to give Mark McGowan a solid 2 on the nickname ability, unless Mark McGo home starts to take off on Twitter or somewhere. Let's get it trending. Finally, ability to talk shit on other states. Now, I'm a bit torn here. I don't know whether to give Mark McGowan a 0 or a high score here, because we haven't really found much. He doesn't really say anything about other states, which you might think would be a pretty poor score. But when you take into account that he has looked at every single other state, just closed the doors on him, left us all to rot and deal with our own problems, and then said absolutely nothing. I mean, fuck, it makes you angry, doesn't it? You know, how could you be doing such a good job and also be a nice guy about it? Fuck you. It really makes you burn inside. So look, I'm going to give Mark a 5 here, because I don't know whether he should score highly or lowly on this one. Next up, the Premier of Queensland, Anastasia Palaszczuk. Now, she strikes me as like that weird sister you have who doesn't really have any good ideas, but does really think she does. You know, like, she's like, oh, why don't we try this? And she's so lovely and she's so nice that you can't really explain to her why that's the dumbest idea you've ever heard. So you just kind of go, I mean, yeah, if it makes you feel happy, you can do that. You know, that really strikes me as what Anastasia Palaszczuk is. She's like, oh, come on, guys, you need to go out and get vaccinated. And everyone else is like, well, we can't. And she goes, oh, well, it was easy for me. Look, here's a photo of me getting Pfizer. Also, I'm going to the Olympics. Not a good idea, Anastasia. Probably great for you. Doesn't make the rest of us feel too good. First category, nickname ability, Anastasia Palaszczuk. Look, I am giving this bitch a 0. Anastasia rhymes with nothing. Palaszczuk rhymes with even less. You know, Anastasia Palaszczuk, I can't think of anything. I've never seen anything. I haven't even seen a headline. I'm getting no nicknames. I might raise it to a 1 if I see any good nickname suggestions in the comments. Try your best. Next up, COVID performance. Yeah, look, pretty good. I do think that it is a bit of a Sydney situation where they were like, oh, we should be fine, and they were right. They've done a few things. They've gotten rid of a couple of outbreaks here and there, so I'm going to go with a pretty good without being seriously tested. Do you know what I mean? Like, they haven't had a big test just yet. I feel like now is their big test. We'll see how they go. Actually, they got it down, didn't they? Yeah, great. I'm giving this bitch a 10. Well done, Anastasia. And lastly, Anastasia Palaszczuk's ability to talk shit about other states. Now, look, she hasn't done much. She's a little bit tight-lipped here, Anastasia is, when she's not talking about leaving the country to go to a Olympics that no one gives a fuck about. She isn't saying much about other states. However, I do love this. She did dub the new Delta strain in Australia the Delta Sydney COVID strain. That's a real haymaker there. So look, it's not, you know, it's not dictated Dan or Glad Bags level, but it is pretty up there. I'm going to give her a solid 6.5 out of 10. Well done, Anastasia. And I think that about wraps up the video. That's all of the premiers, or if there were any others, I can't really remember them, which is actually a really good sign. That must mean they are doing a great job. So to any other premier, if I've forgotten you, you should be happy to be left out of this video. And if you're from a state that has a premier that hasn't made it into this vid, congratulations. You're probably living your life. What does the sun look like? Let me know. And to the people in the states that I did mention, if you are upset about me making fun of your premier, I just want to remind you that you should not like your politicians even if you voted for them. You're Australian, all right? We're a prison colony. Anyone who is in charge is a dickhead, especially the guy we voted for, all right? Don't suck their dicks. They're not gods. They're doing their best, or at least some of them are. So just hold them accountable. We'll get through this together, and who knows, maybe in 600 days, we might get 1 day of freedom a week. Get an ice cream or something, huh? I'm Lewis Spears. I'm cancelling all my shows. Dear God, buy some fucking merch. Subscribe. Help. And I'll see you in the next video.